Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we have entered day 170 of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. And what I wanted to do first today is talk about some of the comments in the comment section discussing the recent strike on the Crimean airfield, and I am happy to respond. I've tried to respond directly to some of the comments in terms of, nothing derogatory. It's just individuals' opinion, and in some cases, just a lack of knowledge in terms of what certain weapon systems are capable of doing. So the first issue that a lot of folks bring up in regards to the attack on the Russian airbase at this locale is that people attending local beaches and civilians around the airbase did not hear anything prior to the attack. And I know I had mentioned the whole issue with the F-35, and then there too, people commenting in the comment section would then say basically, well, you would see an F-35. It was the middle of the day, and you would still see it. It's not invisible. It's a stealth aircraft. It's designed to prevent the aircraft from being picked up on radar and reduces some of the heat signature as well. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right, and it is a very loud aircraft as well. I've heard them flying over near me at times, so you can definitely hear the F-35. Now, I'll try to clarify that a little bit. So, look, the F-35 does not need to fly over the Russian airbase. It would not fly over the Russian airbase. It would probably not get within 30 to 40 miles. Most likely, its weapon release point, if it was an F-35 attack on the Russian airbase, the F-35 could have done a weapons release at 60 miles and utilize some sort of glide bomb, a small diameter bomb. And I know you're thinking, well, small diameter bomb, that doesn't explain the blast radius that you're seeing here. And it is fairly big, and was it a small diameter bomb? Probably not. I wouldn't rule it out, though. I do think it's possible, but we're back at the satellite image. But again, point being, the attack, if it was an F-35, again, the F-35 would have been 60 miles out, well over 100 kilometers from the airbase prior to weapons release. But at the same time, the F-35, when I say F-35 strike, the F-35 is being used more and more as basically a system that can sense enemy targets on the ground without being detected. And it does a very, very good job of that, and it's this net-centric warfare where it can then relay very precise targeting coordinates to other systems in the area behind the F-35. And that, in all likelihood, is the way the attack would have been carried out if it was a NATO operation against this Russian airbase. Now, then you talk about, well, if it was a missile, then people would have heard the missile or seen the missile coming in towards the airbase. No, you would not have heard it, especially if it was a system like the ATACMS. The ATACMS travels very, very fast. It's coming at a high angle of attack from very high altitude, traveling in excess of Mach 3. So that's over half a mile a second, and you would not hear it. All you would hear is a very big boom, and then you would hear the sound of the aircraft. So for instance, if you've ever looked at high-performance fighter jets traveling overhead at very high rates of speed, breaking the sound barrier, when you look up at the sky where you think the sound is, Well, the aircraft has already passed. It's if it came in from the east and you look towards the east where the sound is, you then have to look towards the west because that's where the aircraft is now. You're just not going to see it because it's traveling much faster than the speed of sound. All those individuals on the ground at the beach would have heard initially was a big boom. If it was a glide weapon, a glide system, these glide systems are not powered, so they don't make any noise. And again, you wouldn't have heard anything. All you would have heard was an explosion. And again, they're traveling very fast, and you would have been looking up at a very precise location even to get a glimpse of what you were looking at. And even certain cruise missiles during the last attack phase of its operation can disengage its motors where you can't hear these things coming in, because cruise missiles do travel slower than the speed of sound, and they are more easily shot down. So it really points towards some sort of possibly of a ballistic missile coming from Ukrainian territory, or a semi-ballistic missile in regards to the ATACMS, or it could have been, we're hearing now talk that the Ukrainians are now repurposing S-300s just like the Russians were doing. And I had been talking about that quite a bit because there's a lot of these S-300s in both sides' inventory, and it's not difficult to repurpose those systems with a GPS and make them a relatively precise ground attack weapon system. And again, very possible that could have been used as well. And when it is a ground attack system, it also increases the range of those S-300s. Obviously, when you look at a normal S-300 range specifications, those ranges, in excess of 100 kilometers, are geared towards a powered system going after a high-performance multi-role fighter jet at altitude. And it takes a lot more power for the S-300 to hit said target, whereas with a ground strike, it's able to get up to altitude, in some cases 60,000 feet, and then hit that ground target, and so it's going to have a lot more distance in terms of its ability to strike well behind enemy lines. Probably, I would say an S-300 probably could hit targets out to 200 miles in a ground attack role. Now, there's also talk about the Russian defenses that were in place during the conflict. What was in the Crimea that could have prevented said attack by is it NATO, the United States, is it Ukrainian forces? Again, difficult to say at this point. I wouldn't rule anything out though at this point. Now, what is in the Crimea? Well, the Russians prior to the conflict had two air defense regiments based in Crimea. One was in Sevastopol and operated around Sevastopol. That included 2 battalions of S-400s. And then additionally, there was another air defense unit, air defense regiment, that was based in eastern Crimea towards Kerch. And that too contained 2 battalions of S-400 systems. So in total, and again, the Crimea is not a large area, and 4 battalions of S-400 should have been sufficient to stop said attack. And you would think it would have been some sort of saturation attack, but that's not what it looked like, because we would have seen the Russians respond prior to the attack, meaning the Russians would have launched air defense missiles against a inbound target. And yes, the local civilian population would have heard and seen that as well. So that's why we believe the Russians were not even aware that they were under attack. So whatever this was that hit the Russian airbase in Crimea, it appears the Russians were not even aware of it. They had no clue that they were under attack, could not see it on radar, and thus that is what occurred. So again, F-35 not going to fly over the airbase. It's going to be way far away. It's going to be 60, 70 miles out on a weapons release, possibly closer, possibly further, depending on the weapon system that it could release. Now, yes, I know people are going to jump over and look at what weapon systems the F-35 can carry, but there's things out there that the United States are using right now that people just don't know about. And it's just the way it is, and maybe 10 years from now we'll know more about what could have been used if it was an F-35. And then obviously if it was a Ukrainian system as well, we'll probably know more sooner rather than later at some point. But it's very interesting, the Russian response over this as well, where they immediately came out and suggested that it was an accident that happened on the base. I'm going to go back over here to the satellite map, where again try to dispel that rumor. Let's see if it switched on me, and it did. We're good to go. So again, back to this area of the attack and imaging of the attack, and again, I get. Some folks are going to say, well, this was photoshopped. Maybe, who knows? But this is what we have, and this is what we believe actually occurred. So again, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 strike points. You can see, in all probability, all of these aircraft probably have sustained some sort of damage in this strike that you're seeing here, and quite possibly down here on the tarmac as well. But so again, completely outside the realm of possibility of an accident. I adamantly believe that. Now, some are saying, well, it was a sabotage operation. It was an internal sabotage. So what do you mean by that? Are you saying that a Ukrainian special forces team infiltrated the base and somehow got large amounts of explosives at these 4 locations and then set them off? I mean, really? Is that what you're saying? I don't see that as reasonable. And I would assume the Russians would have been able to detect any sort of ground operation by Ukrainians or some sort of sabotage team to launch said operation. The size of the explosions would indicate that it would have needed to be, if it was a ground operation, it would have been some sort of truck-borne explosive devices, meaning they would have had to roll in with trucks and then detonate it at these 4 different strike points, aim points. Well, very, very unreasonable in that assertion as well. I just don't see that happening. The next is, well, it could have been Ukrainians or Ukrainian supporters using drones a few miles away to then attack the base. Again, the craters that you see here, I mean, you're looking at something that is probably over 250 pounds in weight, and these drones that you see that are being used are dropping very, very small explosives, or even the Bayraktar is probably not going to do this type of damage. And the next assertion would be, the Bayraktar or whatever drone hit an explosive device that was on the ground, meaning ammunition or fuel or something like that. Again, highly doubtful in terms of that as well. You just can't. If you look at this here, it's a pretty good crater. That crater on the west side here, and it probably came in this way, which is kind of strange. It's higher than the berm, or it looks to be at least. And the same here, you can kind of see it here, and this crater again blew out kind of the end of this berm completely, and was able to destroy whatever was over here. You can see my cursor, hopefully. Again, pretty sizable crater. You can see the upturned earth. You can see the scorched, the blast marks here. And obviously it destroyed that aircraft, something probably impacted in this area here, probably debris and destroyed and burned out whatever that aircraft was. This aircraft has probably been damaged in all likelihood. Same here, damaged. And I would assume that they would have moved out anything that wasn't damaged after the strike. And same thing from over here, too, on the east side of the attack. You can clearly see that's probably where the aim point was, where the strike was, and it took out that aircraft and then the building as well, whatever was there. So again, just going back, you just would not have heard a strike, depending on the weapons. So now, if it was let's say if it was a variation of the Neptune, a cruise missile that hadn't gone into a high sonic terminal attack run, then yeah, you would have heard that, but maybe not. Again, there's a couple of different things that could have happened that could have made it where the individuals on the ground couldn't have heard it. This is really kind of pointing towards some sort of ballistic attack, ballistic missile type attack, ATACMS or something along those lines. The Ukrainians have the capability to manufacture that sorts of stuff. They have the Tocha. They have, obviously, they have the HIMARS, so it's not outside the realm of possibility that ATACMS was in fact delivered. The F-35, while remote, and I'm not coming out saying that's what it was, but again, anything's possible in this conflict, in this kind of this age of craziness that we're in right now. You just don't know. And again, it's just not F-35s. There's other systems that work with F-35s as well. When I say F-35, I mean that F-35s are a platform to identify targets on the ground. And I don't believe that the Russians, the Chinese, have the ability to detect the F-35 on radar. I don't think they can see it. And I've had some discussions with some folks, and I've received information that the F-35 has flown over areas in the world where you would never believe that those F-35s would fly over, and F-22s as well. And they're very, very difficult for opposing forces of the United States to detect those systems right now. So anyway, just wanted to clear that up, talk about it a little bit, and try to explain a little bit why you may not have heard that strike on the Crimean Peninsula by some of those civilians around the base spending the day at the beach. In other news, we have received reports that the main defensive lines running from Bakhmut down to the west of Horlovivka have been penetrated by Russian forces. We had discussed earlier how the Russians were now on the outskirts of Bakhmut, and in fact, in all probability, are on the outskirts and suburbs of Bakhmut as well. But the Russians continue its high-pressure campaign with the goal of seizing the main area near Bakhmut, and then eventually looking to run to the southwest towards Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. Looks like the situation is going a bit better for the Russians near Bakhmut than it is down here towards Avdiivka. Looks like that attack in that area has stalled. Again, the Ukrainians have very robust defensive lines near Avdiivka, and continue to resist the Russian onslaught in that direction. Additionally, right now we believe in on the western bank of the Dnieper River that whatever offensive operations by the Ukrainians that were being concocted have now been negated by Russian forces. We don't anticipate at this point to see either side conducting large-scale operations, at least on the western bank of the Dnieper River. In fact, I believe that the airbase strike was done because of the success of some of those aircraft were having on the Ukrainian operations that were taking place on the western bank of the Dnieper River in the direction of Kherson. Those aircraft, in all probability, at that air base down here in Crimea, were dropping a precision-guided ordnance on Ukrainian Ukrainian forces in this area, and that is what led to the strike on that air base. Again, was it Ukrainians or was it some other nation state helping Ukraine? Again, we'll know at some point. We're not going to know in the near future, but at some point we obviously will. But that does it for today. We'll continue to monitor, report, and obviously bring you more content for your consumption. Thank you for joining us. Have a good day.